fundamentally the first human being got out of bed on the wrong side. So what we're now having to do is go back into bed, get back to connect, get out of the other side. But we just haven't done that. And we are in a process, I think, where there's a lot of pressure on us from the environment, from the politics, from the relationship problems we have, from the health problems we have. We're under a lot of pressure to transform the paradigm. A paradigm that begins with you were conceived whole, you were born whole, you are always whole. Get in touch with it.
Welcome to the Superhuman Life. I'm your host, Frank Rich, and this is the only podcast in the world dedicated to helping men break free from the shackles of addiction through the power of faith and fitness. It is our goal with every episode to help you take back control and rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. And we do so by bringing you real and raw conversations with people just like you, aiming to find their place in this world while dealing with the everyday struggles and battles that we all face. Now, it is my belief that we were all created for a specific purpose. And if we can harness that belief or faith, then take control of our mind and body or fitness, then we can ultimately create the life that we've always dreamed about, our own superhuman life. I want to let you know how grateful and blessed I am to have you here with me today. Let's get on to today's show.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another amazing and very exciting episode of the Superhuman Life. As always, I'm your host, Frank Rich. And guys, I just got to tell you how incredibly grateful, so excited I am to have you here with us today. Before we get into today's introduction, guys, and welcoming our guest, for those of you that are watching or listening here in the States, let me first start off by wishing you a happy 4th of July. Here, we're dropping this episode on the 5th, so one day post Independence Day. But I just want to thank you once again for being here and wishing you the happiest of 4th of July. Hopefully you have the opportunity to get with some family, to get with some loved ones, to celebrate our country's independence, because we're living in a crazy, unique time, but we cannot stop celebrating what this country was founded on and what we're ultimately all about. So get that out of the way, guys. Happy 4th of July. God bless you guys. Love you. Love the USA. Now, for all you international listeners, that is our Independence Day. But let's get into today's conversation, guys. We have a deep conversation. Not where I thought it was going to go, but that's what we're all about here, guys. We're about bringing you the conversations that are going to help lift you to the next level in your life. They're going to help elevate you to create your own superhuman life. So that's really what we're getting into today. We're getting into living through your heart. You know, we've from all the way back at the beginning, episode 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't remember which one it was, but with Eric Salzenstein, he dropped this heart-centered alpha, which has rung so true. And it's really been one of the foundational tools that we built the movement on here with the Superhuman Life being heart-centered alpha. What does that ultimately mean? And it's one of the themes that we've really taken into Rebuild Recovery with all the work that we're doing with helping men over there. But today's conversation is about becoming whole, about becoming complete, about finding your inner peace inside of yourself, about living through your heart. Your heart is the master, and your mind must become the servant to the master. That was one of the big takeaways. But I'm speaking with a legend here. I'm speaking with Udo Erasmus. Many of you may be familiar with Udo. Udo is a legendary health and wellness pioneer, acclaimed author, and extensive educator. Udo developed the machinery to create flaxseed oil, and he was one of the original starters of the healthy fats movement. Now, he is the founder of the billion-dollar supplement line, Udo's Choice, harnessing the healing power of nature through the vegan products made with health in mind. Now, as a child of war, Udo's life began with intense struggle, and later he got pesticide poisoning, leaving doctors at a loss regarding treatment. Once he decided to take his health into his own hands, he began researching, and his discoveries changed the trajectory and purpose of his life. Now, today, Udo is a best-selling speaker and author of many books, including his best-selling book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, that has sold over 250,000 copies. He's also the author of Total Sexy Health. He teaches at events hosted by Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra, and is an extensive education in biochemistry, genetics, biology, and nutrition. And he also holds a master's degree in counseling psychology. Now, in today's conversation, guys, I thought Udo and I were going to get a lot into Udo's Choice. I thought we were going to get into oils, healthy fats, all the good stuff. We touch on it there at the end. But like I said, guys, this conversation is really about helping you become whole, helping you find inner peace, helping you find happiness in your life. So we get into meditation. We get into living through your heart. We get into how to find peace inside. Guys, Udo is a legend. 79 years young, still cranking away, still serving, still impacting the world. So this is somebody that is practicing what he is teaching, guys. I literally walked into him. He was on the call before we got started. I walked into him meditating. And he walks us through this meditative practice that he does on a daily basis. So guys, get ready, get prepared, bring pen, bring paper, get ready to take some notes. But a jam-packed conversation with the legend himself, Udo Erasmus. Guys, how to find inner peace. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you guys on the other side. God bless and love you. Udo, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
this is going
to be fun. This is going to be a really, really exciting and interesting conversation. I have no clue where we're going to go. And that's a fascinating part with these podcasts. We were talking before recording how we're just kind of both fans of this type of media, this type of content, I guess you describe it as, because it's really no hold bar. We're going to go where the conversation leads us today. But I think a really good place to start here, Udo, is somebody of your stature, everything you've done and put out into the world. I think it's important to go back to the early years, your upbringing. I think a lot of people, they get stuck in this mindset of, I can't achieve X because of who my family is, or I can't go to this place because of where I'm from, or whatever's happened in my past is going to prevent me from achieving X goal in my future. And I think your story shatters that myth, if anything.
But here's the thing. Whatever people tell themselves for what is the reason not to be successful, that becomes the reason for them not to be successful. It's what we tell ourselves, right? So you blame it on this or you blame it on that, but it's really just an excuse. It's just what you say to yourself. And when you start saying things to yourself and you start believing what you're saying to yourself, then you make it come true, because what you're thinking sets the direction and sets the goal and sets the limitations. That's what thinking is about, right? So if you want to say, well, I want to have the same, I don't want to be, I don't know, pick somebody who's rich and famous. Let's say Arnold, okay? I don't want to be Arnold, but I want to have the experience Arnold had. Or I want to have the biggest muscle. I want to be the Arnold, my kind of Arnold. Right? Because you can't be Arnold, because you're always only going to be yourself. So what you set then for your goals for yourself is going to create your destiny, because it sets the direction, it sets the outcome, and it sets the limitations. So if you want a good outcome, then start thinking some really good stuff, right? What would you like to be? If you want to be, the biggest thing, if you're going to set a goal, in my view, I'm 79 now, right? I came from a war. So I was a refugee kid when I was 2.5 years old. And the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the Allies were using refugees as target practice, shooting at us from planes. So it was a very intense early childhood. I never felt safe, didn't trust anybody. My mother had to leave me behind, so that's a breach of trust. She had to do it. I can't imagine what it must have been like for her to have to do that, right? And then I grew up really shy, because books were safe, but nothing else much was. So I spent a lot of time reading books, because you can read about a war in a book, but there are no bullets flying. So you just read the images and you read the stories. So I was really, really shy, and I never thought about what I wanted to amount to, except when I was, maybe that's not true. When I was 6, I wanted to be a shoemaker, because I understood that every human being needs shoes. So I could serve the entire world being a shoemaker. And it's like simple, really simple stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And then the next year I wanted to be a fireman. Right? So I was getting a little more heroic and, rah rah. But I didn't really have. I thought a lot about what should I do with my life, but I loved education. I did science when I was 6 years old. We were in Germany, and I listened to adults argue about really trivial things, and their intensity bothered me, because I was really sensitive to that kind of intensity, and I still am, actually. And I listened to the argument and I said, man, there has to be a way that people can live in harmony. And then, like a little kid who doesn't know how complicated everything is, right? I said, I'm going to find out how. That's
What
been my
age?
driver. 6 years old.
6 years old. You had this
Yeah.
kind of moment where you're like,
Yeah,
there's
and
got to be a better.
And that's been my driver ever since. So then I went into science to figure out how things work because I was really pretty insecure. Chaos, everything was chaotic. I didn't know what I could depend on. And so the idea was, well, if I know how things work, I have a little bit more predictable and control, right? That's what science is about, predict and control. How do things work? So then I got into biosciences because I wanted to know how creatures work. Then I got into psychology because I wanted to know how thinking works. This is all good stuff to know if you're trying to figure out how people can live in harmony, right? Then I got into medicine because it's about health. And I found out very quickly we only learned about disease. So I went back into biochemistry and genetics because that's where you study health. You're studying normal creatures in normal situations in biology. That's what you're studying. So that's what health is about. How does a normal creature function in normal situations?
What year are we talking about now? Because you had this kind of aha revelation at 6. I mean, 79. So if we retract back, you're born in the early 40s. If my research was
I'll do the
done.
math for you. I was born in 42. I had this revelation in 48. We
So
left.
when are you getting into studying sciences and the healthcare and everything?
This is later. I was 16. I graduated a year early. We left Germany when I was 10, and my parents skipped me a grade because apparently I was fairly clever. So they figured, and we didn't know the language, so it took me about 3 years to catch up to, learn the language and
when you
learn the lesson.
left Germany, you went to Canada, where you reside now, or did you come to the States, or where was home?
Canada. Yeah, Canada. Place called Okanagan Valley, or little town called Oliver. So I went to school there, and then eventually I left. So I left medicine, went back into biologic science, biochemistry, and genetics, and then there was still something missing. So I left university and got into self knowledge, and by that time it was 1968 is when I left university, as my favorite topic was genetics. But I didn't like the idea of cloning people. I didn't think we should be messing with nature like that. So that's why I left. And I thought you either have to join or leave. I didn't think I could be a rebel at university. So then I did some psychedelics. That blew the door open for me because I was so tightly wound from the war and all that early experience. And it just, what it showed me the first time I did a psychedelic, it showed me that there are like 1,000 ways you could live your life. It just opened up the world of options for me. And then it was like, oh my God, I have so many options. Who do I want to be? How do I want to live? And so then I started exploring that. And then a couple of years later, I said, okay, well, that's enough with psychedelics. And I was kind of getting burned out. So I said, I only get one body, so I got to look after it. So I'm not doing any psychedelics for 2 years. And before the 2 years were up, I had met somebody who said to me, the peace that you search for in the world is within you. And I can show you how to connect to that. And I, because I came out of a war, peace was a big issue for me. I was in the peace movement when I found out, until I found out it was an anti-war movement. So I left because I was looking for peace, not for anti-war or political stuff. So he said, the peace you search for in the world is within you. And I can show you how to get to it, connect to it. And I thought, well, this guy was 14. I was 30. I said, yeah, I doubt it. I'm 30. I haven't figured it out. It must be really complicated. What's a 14-year-old going to teach me? But then he showed me a method. And the method is simply about taking time and sitting still and closing off all of your distractions and allowing your awareness to come back home inside into the space that your body occupies. And what are you going to find there? And that's where the peace is. So I started doing that, and I didn't think it was going to work because it seemed too simple to me. But within 6 months, I noticed it made a difference to how I felt and how my days went. And some days I would sit and not feel anything, but I'd notice that my day went better. And it's kind of like calming down. Why? Because there is something in every human being, no matter what their story is, no matter what their habits are, no matter what problems they've got, there's something in every human being that feels completely unconditionally whole, unconditionally loved, unconditionally peaceful, that is not dependent on any circumstances on the outside. And imagine having access to that whenever you need it. That's kind of cool. And so that's my foundation, right? Because when you don't bring your awareness into the core of your being and experience the contentment and the calmness that is there, then you're living a life without foundation. And then your mind, your brain, which is supposed to be life's computer, it goes rogue because it doesn't have a master. The master lives in the heart. The mind is supposed to be the servant of that master, a servant of life. And when you are not in touch with life, then the mind has lost its matter, and then anything goes. Crazy or not crazy, right? And when people are content, addictions are really easy, because when I'm content, I'm beyond where addiction is a mental thing. Right? Addiction is a mental thing. It has habits of thinking and always the hope that if I do this thing that I'm doing, whatever it is, making $1 million, making $1 billion, getting the girl, whatever it is, taking the drug, whatever it is, if there's always the hope that when I do what I set out to do, when I succeed in that, then I'll feel whole again, or I'll feel good again, or something I've lost will have been found. And of course, it never really works, because you get maybe, like, if it's a really big project, you get 3 days where you say, "Yo, I did it," and then on the 4th day, like this restlessness is back. You feel it in your chest. It's uncomfortable. It's your driving force, but it's also your call. It's actually the call of your heart for your awareness to come back home, connect to life.
I love what you said there with the heart is the master and the servant becomes, or the mind becomes the servant to the master. Everything you're saying is ringing so true with me. I've experienced this seeking external gratification, from the bodybuilding. Like I sought a physique because there was a missing piece inside of me. And I've shared this multiple times on the podcast about at the point where I probably physically looked the best. I mean, I achieved status and I achieved ranks with my physique that most people don't have the discipline to achieve. We're talking sub 4% body fat at 6'3", 240 plus pounds. I'm a large human being, but then I was able to really take that
fat?
and sculpt it sub 4%. So, I was on a bodybuilding stage. But I thought that achieving that physique, I thought that achieving the body that resembled what you're looking at over, very similar to the Arnold, physique. I have a similar structure and build to him. Not saying that I looked anything like it, but I thought in pursuing and achieving that physically, that was going to make me feel whole inside. And I've shared it multiple times here that many of those nights where I was on stage and I was at my absolute physical peak, those were the points where I was the emptiness, the most empty inside, because I was chasing the wrong thing. So if somebody's hearing this, and let's provide, if we can, something like really like actionable. So if somebody's caught up in that, their mind is controlling everything. They can't get out of this negative, toxic thinking. It just seems like everything that they think is through a negative lens. And how do they go from getting out of their heart or out of their head into the heart? So the heart becomes the master, and then the mind becomes a servant. What's a practical
I'll
approach?
get there in a second. So here's what you did. You used the ache of the heart, the restlessness in your heart. You used that to set the goal of getting big, right? And then you worked your butt off to get there. So you were persistent. And when you got there, the ache was not addressed, because the ache is an inside job. And where that comes from, that ache began the moment you were born. Because when you were in your mother's womb, think about it. You were in your mother's womb. There was nothing to do. There was no place to go. Everything was taken care of, and it was relatively safe. And you didn't have any language, and you didn't have any thoughts. You were just alive, and a body was growing, and a brain was growing, part of the body. So I call it the Buddha tank. So you were hanging out, floating in this little Buddha tank, and your awareness was at rest inside, in its source, in life. And so if you were in that state right now, you could be called an enlightened one, because you'd be in the light that is your life, and you'd be called a Buddha or a master, because there's other masters, not Buddha. There's lots of masters too, right? A Christ, a Krishna, maybe Lao Tzu and Huang Po, and there's a bunch of them, and there are writings, Rumi, there are writings of these people from an experience of being fully present in their own being. It's an inside thing. And most people know what heartache feels like, or that restless, or that emptiness feels like. You called it emptiness, right? Most people have felt it. I've never met anybody who didn't know what I was talking about when I said this feeling that's uncomfortable in your chest. Everybody knows it. There are 10 pages of different names we call it, words we call it, loss and grief and sorrow and blues and loneliness and longing and striving and yearning and isolation, separation, disconnection, constriction, hard to breathe. There's lots of different names for it. Always the same feeling, always uncomfortable. And always, we don't like it. So we either distract ourselves from it. So whatever it takes, any distraction will do, because we don't like the feeling. Distract from it, try to ignore it, try to deny it, try to explain it away, or blame it on somebody or something, right? That's what we do with this feeling. But we don't want to feel it because it's intense, and it might even make us cry. And because it's our disconnection from ourselves that began that. When we were born, our awareness had to go out into the world to get to know the world, because now it wasn't everything taken care of anymore. Now we had to learn to survive, right? And so nature set it up so that when you come out of the womb, you come into the world, and your awareness goes out through your senses to change, because you have to assess change. Is this friend, is this foe, or is this irrelevant? And that's important for survival. So that's automatic. But now you're disconnected. You're not present inside anymore. Now you're present outside, absent inside. Before, in the mother's womb, you were present inside, absent outside. That's the shift. And with that shift of awareness, disconnected from your core, from within you, that's where that emptiness began. That's where that ache began, right? And every time that something on the outside that we have distracted ourselves into, could be relationships, could be grandma, could be a dog, could be our friends, anytime when one of those ends, then we go back here. I lost something, right? Lost it on the outside. But this is not a loss on the outside. This is a reminder of our loss of ourselves that began really, really early. Sometimes trauma makes it clear early on. I started feeling it at 17, and I couldn't shake it anymore. And so what I tell people, instead of distracting, denying, blaming, sit in that feeling. Sit in that ache. Not comfortable, but it won't hurt you and it won't kill you. And when you sit with that, you're so close to your connection to your heart. You're already out of your head. You're already in your chest. You're so close. Less than a hair's breadth behind that ache is your wholeness, is your home, is you.
Yeah. What did you say? Like you have to be able to like lean into this, sense of emptiness or shallowness or whatever the feeling, like you need to touch that as hard as you possibly can. You need to lean into it so that you can experience the complete opposite, because you can't have wholeness without emptiness. I hear you talk a lot about light and dark. You can't have darkness without light. You can't have light without absolute darkness. It's like we need both of these in our life to experience, to have this full experience.
Sort of. I'm not sure that that's true, because you have that experience when you're in your mother's womb, and you have the light in you. In fact, the light is your life. In fact, it's solar energy that is your life, and that life and that light, that solar energy, is also what is called the master. It's all the same stuff. Solar energy goes into green leaves, stored in the bonds between atoms. You eat them as food. You break them down, and that solar energy is released. That's your life. And it's flowing through you all the time. It's not the same life all the time, because every day it's a different energy. Because that's why every day you eat, right? So there's a flow of life through you. And that flow of life is also the energy that is called the master. But it's called the master when you go into it and become the light. And it's called solar energy when you look on the outside and see it out there. But it's the same thing. Right? And so the idea is, the best thing, sit quietly with your discontent, with your ache. Feel it. And stay with it. And be still in it. And see how deeply you can go into it. And see how long you can stay there. Because if you do that, you will find your way to your heart. And if you understand that, you might also find somebody who can help you with it. Because it's not until you feel the ache of the heart that a master or a teacher or a guide or a mentor makes sense. If you go to somebody who can teach you that, and you say, "Hi, there's nothing wrong with me. Hi, I'm feeling fine." Right? That's good. Great. I'm great. That's great that you're feeling fine. But if you say to him, "My heart's aching and I don't know what it is, and maybe can you show me? Can you explain it to me? Can you help me find a way to get that taken care of?" It's like this heartache is like hunger is for food. Hunger makes food relevant. Thirst makes water relevant. Heartache makes peace, contentment, unconditional love relevant. Right? But you have to understand that you have a need for it before it makes sense to sit still. What we do is we feel the restlessness or the emptiness, and we don't know what it is. And then, I got to do something. And there comes your distraction, bodybuilding, whatever it is, right? Yeah, I'm too busy. I don't feel this emptiness.
So let's say, somebody's never experienced anything like this. They've never sat quiet for, more than 2 minutes, and this is the vast majority of most people these days.
No, not true. They spent 9 months in it.
Consciously, nobody's ever let's say somebody's never consciously done it, because when you're in the womb, like, you're not conscious of what's going on. You don't really have self-consciousness. So probably somewhere between 2 to 4 years old, when you kind of identify yourself as separate from everything else around you. So I'm speaking in terms of like an adult, the people that are going to be hearing this. They're like, I get it. Like my mind is all over the place. I shared with you the work that I do and the men that I serve and help, so a lot of these guys are in their own head. They've never sat quiet. They, and most people these days don't, because when you're sitting somewhere, you have this thing in your hand. I'm sure 90% of the people that you come in contact with are looking dead at their phone. You can't get in your heart. You can't find peace staring at a phone. So outside of just sitting there and enduring the pain, is there a hack? Is there a tactical strategy? What's the time frame we're typically looking for? Like, I want to pass something off to the listener. We're sharing a lot of higher level stuff there. Let's get in the weeds now, though, and let's say, okay, if you're trying to get out of your head into your heart, sit there. But what can they expect? What's time frame? And if they just can't get out of their head, is there something that they could actually do outside of taking psychedelics? We could obviously send everybody down that path and we'll all become enlightened. But let's say just to the guy that's never really gotten out of his own head right now, what's the real practical, if there is one? If there's not, then...
Yeah, I would say this. recognize that something is driving you in whatever it is you're doing and whatever your habit. Something is driving you. Look at what is that thing that's driving you, because it's with you. You have it. And that's usually is that restlessness or that emptiness or whatever you call that. The second thing is, what do you want? See, we're creating a journey now. What do you want? Well, I want to feel whole. I want to feel complete. I want to feel everything is okay. I want to feel good. I want to feel loved. I want to feel like I'm good enough. I want to feel peace because my mind is driving me crazy, right? I mean, I think this is things people. So I want that, and so between I don't feel good and I want to feel good, there's your reason for sitting still, because the journey is a journey that begins by sitting in your pain and ends up sitting in your joy. And how long does it take? Well, it's about that far. So it's a question. It depends on how fast you can walk, right? It could be instant. And what you're doing when you do that is you're bringing your awareness from here or out there, right? Because it's like either your senses take you out into the world, or your senses take you into your head, where you're thinking about everything that's you've seen and your memories and your thoughts and all of that, your beliefs and your concepts and all of that. So you're there, and where you need to go is here. You need to go out of the world of surfaces, out of your thoughts, into feeling in your heart. Thoughts in your head to feeling in your heart. When you go to the heartache, that's why heartache is so powerful. You're already out of your head. Because heartache, when your heart aches or when you feel empty, you feel it here, and it grounds you, makes you simple, and takes you out of your head. Then it's your driving force. Then it's also your call to come home to yourself. It's the starting point for that journey, and it will be for the rest of your life your reminder when you drift. Because when you drift, because you don't do your homework, because you need to do, just like you got to eat every day and pee every day, and you need to come home every day too. And it's a deliberate thing you need to do, but the call of the heart is what is the motivation. So feel that, and then literally sit with it. And this thing that you talk about that everybody has, you just put it there for 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's practically as simple as that. But trust me, I've worked and coached enough men that like they can't fall asleep without their phone in their hand. We have strategies and things that we help. But what I got from what you said there is you got to go into this with an intention. You got to go in this as I'm sitting here to find peace, and this is what I'm looking to get out of it. I talk at lengths about having intention, having goals, having an aim in your life, and I think it sits true here as well.
And the other thing that I would say is that, and take it from me, because I experience it. I've been doing this for 50 years. So I'm experienced. I know my way around this. I'm work in progress still, but I know where to go. The most incredible thing that you could possibly think of to be and to feel in your life is already inside of you, waiting to be discovered. So come home. Come home. You've been drifting long enough. Come home. And come home. And when you come home, it's like, oh my God, I had no, it's like, oh my God, I'd completely forgotten that everything that is the most incredible is actually built into us. Because if we were built different, if what was best was elsewhere, we would kill ourselves to get there. So it's lucky that the best there is for a human being is right inside of them. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't need any props. They don't need anything. They just need to sit with themselves. And the master is actually who you are. When when people, like when I say to you, I say, hey, whose body is that? Frank.
Which one?
Yeah, the one I just pointed at. Whose body is that?
This one? Mine?
Yeah.
It's mine.
It's mine. Mine, right? You know what you just told me? You just told me that you're not the body. Yeah, you just told me you're not the body. And most everybody will say that. You point at their body and you say, Whose body is that? Oh, that's my body. So if this is my body, then I'm not the body. I am the owner of the body, my body. It's just like when somebody says, whose watch is that? Where is it here?
Yeah.
Here we go. Whose watch is that? And say, oh, well, that's my watch. Well, I'm not the watch. I'm the owner. Same with the body. So if I'm the owner of the body, then who actually am I? And life is who I am. Life in human form. I'm not a body that's alive. I'm life in human form. And life weighs nothing and runs everything. And life is that solar energy, that life, that unconditional love, the power that runs the show, all power within me, all knowledge within me, all presence within me is life. And that life, when I come to know it and get to know it, and it'd be a good idea to get to know the unconditional love that runs your show, right? Everybody, people want unconditional love. They can't find it, because they're looking out there for it. There's no unconditional love outside. There is unconditional love inside. How beautiful that is. And is that worth like 30 seconds of sitting still every day, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or see how still you can become, see how deeply still you can become, see how long you can stay there, and then be present in it and discover what there is within you, and feel it, the sensations in your body, the light within you, there's a sound within you, there's an unconditional love within you, all accessible to you if you're willing to sit still for them. So that's the practice. You take all your stuff and you put it aside for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to sit with myself. And then you follow your breathing. That also helps to keep you out of your head. Right? That's not hard to do.
Would you say that this is something that should be done daily? And is it better done in the morning to kind of set your intention for the day? Is it better done in the evening to kind of recap, rewind, and review? Or should you schedule times in both the morning and evening? I mean, I think this is exactly what you're doing. So those listening, there was, Udo jumped on here 20 minutes. I had the thing open. I wasn't prepared. I was walking around the office here with no shirt on. So I had a couple minutes. I need to go get prepared. And when I came back, he was sitting in this calm. He was sitting in the silence. I saw him, eyes closed. I could see that he was paying attention to his breathing. So you were practicing this literally 30 minutes ago. So for those out there, they're like, I love what Udo's sharing here. Like, is this a practice we should do daily, in the AM, in the PM, or what's kind of the best timing, or just when you have an opportunity, I guess, just like you did here?
All of the above, right? If the only place where you can get privacy is on the toilet, then do it on the toilet, because you don't have to pay attention to what's going on the toilet, so you can sit there and follow your breathing, right? But all of the above. What I do is I like to get up in the morning, and that's the first thing I do, because it does set me up for the day. And it's funny because sometimes I don't remember experiencing much, but my day goes better. So just because I took time to sit still, it changes the quality of my day, even if I didn't experience anything. And sometimes people say, oh, well, I can't sit still, it's boring. Yeah, that's how addicted we are to doing things. And so it's hard to sit out of the addiction. But if you're bored, you're on the right place. You need to fall in love with the boredom, because you're no longer addicted. You're now in a no man's land. You haven't gotten quite deep enough yet, but you're on the right track. So, and then to notice how peaceful the boredom is, and fall in love with that peace.
Well, would you say for most people, is it boredom, or most people can't stand being by themselves? They don't enjoy their own company enough that they could sit there just in their own thoughts and let everything kind of process and digest what's actually going on. It's probably kind of a combination of sheer boredom, and you don't enjoy being by yourself.
Yeah, and it's different. It's different for different people. I mean, people who are social and are always out there, they would say more, I don't like my own company. But you know what? You don't know your own damn company, because you're never with it. So get to know your own company and find out. There's not like all the thoughts that people said you're no good and you should be doing this and why aren't you doing that, and the things they whacked you on the head for. And, that's not you. Life has never said that you're not good enough. Life has never said you're not worth loving. If life found you not worth loving, it would recycle you, right? Seriously, right? So if you think you don't like your own company, you have not kept your own company, because your own company is awesome and magnificent in its nature. Every human being on the planet, 8 billion people, doesn't matter what gender or what race or what story or what culture or what religion, every human being is by nature awesome and magnificent from the core of their being. And then when you can get to that, then it will just fill your life, and you will fill the world with awesomeness and magnificence. And if you want to accomplish great things, because there are lots of great things to accomplish, to do, that need to be done, go here first and recognize that your purpose is also in this place. And then whatever your talents are and whatever your history is and what you know and what you can relate to, your purpose comes out of that through whatever your personality is. And it'll be unique, and it'll be unbelievably good, and it won't be fulfilling, what you do won't be fulfilling you. Fulfillment will be doing you.
I love that. I love that. Do you have a formula or way that you talk or teach people how to discover their purpose? I shot a podcast. It's going back probably 5 or 6 months now. It may have been, I think it was in early January, around the new year, on 5 questions to ask. And they're all centered around, what in the world irritates you? So what problems, keep you up at night, or what problems in the world are you constantly thinking about? So that's number one. And then looking at where are unique opportunities in your life. And then it really comes down to, like, what are your own unique God-given skills? So I think when you identify a problem in the world that you want to fix, and then you combine it with your own God-given skills, that when you put those two together, somewhere in that mix is your life's purpose. I love high-level conversations. I love creating content. I love learning and exploring, taking high-level concepts and bringing them down to a lower level. And that's why I coach people. That's why I create a lot of content. I feel that's one of my gifts, the articulation of concepts and ideas and whatnot. So I feel I'm walking in my purpose right now. But do you have a way that you help people find or discover their own purpose in life?
You know what? The purpose is already there. I do it the other way around. I say, go home first, come home first, so that you get more fully present in your being and your purpose. And when you're quiet, even Einstein said that. Einstein says 99 times I think and get nothing. And then I stop thinking, float in silence, and the answer comes to me. So even Einstein knew that there's a stillness practice. He floats in silence, he says, right? I stop thinking, I float in silence, and it feels like that. And everything is there. Everything is there. And the reason I do it that way is because when I'm not fully present and feel cared for, then half of the time I can't see what needs to be done in the world, because I'm too tied up with, what can I do to get myself taken care of? But when I feel taken care of, then it's like, okay, there's nothing, it's not about me anymore. I'm taken care of. Doesn't have to be about me anymore. And if I don't feel taken care of, I know where to go to feel taken care of, because that care is there all the time. And then it's like, okay, well, now what? Okay, where can I help? What needs to be done? What's the biggest splash for good I can make in one lifetime, in one body? Right? But that won't happen until I feel taken care of. Because before I felt taken care of, everything I did had an element of, I'm going to just only do, I could see that might take care of me. And then I would do that, but I wouldn't do what needed to be done, just because I wasn't ready to actually serve. So I was there to serve myself, not to serve the whole thing.
Why isn't this taught? Why isn't this at the forefront of curriculum education? You talked about even you getting into healthcare in the was around 60, 68. You identified very early on that healthcare wasn't about health; it was about managing illness, managing sickness. And I don't work in the medical field, but from an outsider's view, it kind of looks like we're dealing with exactly the same thing today. So here we are 40 plus years since you were first getting into it when you identified that this problem, and it's still the same problem. Healthcare is not centered around health. You obviously have, you have podcasts, and you have a lot of people now coming out in the social media world that are doing tremendous work, people like yourself and many of the other great guests that we've had, where you can go find those tidbit nuggets. We got to be looking for them. This should be at the forefront of education. This should be taught to children, how to get whole, how to get centered, how to calm yourself, like literally teaching children that you have everything that you need, exactly what you're saying. So I don't want it to feel like it's a loaded question, and I don't want to get into any conspiracies or anything like that. But why do you feel that this is not being taught to children or adults in general? Like, what are we missing as people or society?
We've been around for 200,000 years, human beings on the planet, right? And fundamentally, the first human being got out of bed on the wrong side. So what we're now having to do is go back into bed, get back to connect, get out of the other side, right? But we just haven't done that. And we are in a process, I think, where there's a lot of pressure on us from the environment, from the politics, from the relationship problems we have, from the health problems we have. We're under a lot of pressure to transform the paradigm. Paradigm that begins with you were conceived whole, you were born whole, you are always whole. Get in touch with it. That's job one. And then everything else flows. But the money is all made on patching up problems but not fixing them. Drugs are perfect. You have to take it every day. It suppresses symptoms. It never fixes anything. So then you sell a lot of pills that way. But what I'm trying to do is I say, well, if I could actually help you to be whole, then you wouldn't need me anymore. And I actually like that. Right? And fundamentally, that wholeness lives in everyone. When you and I and all the people listening and all their friends start to hear a different story and start to act into that different story. That's how it changes. It's one by one. But it's always one by one, and we have to each start with ourselves to find that place again that we lost. That is where the goodies are. And then out of the goodies, it's like, look, if I'm in peace, and I look at the world and I say, oh my God, peace has always been everywhere. But only peace knows that. But if I'm angry, I look at that same world and I say, enemies. Got to be prepared for enemies. And if there aren't any, then I'm going to create some, because I need enemies for my anger. And then I'll live into the world with anger. That's going to create a different world than a world of peace. And if I'm fearful, I'll see danger everywhere. And then I'll create danger. And if I can't create it, then I'll imagine it. And then I'll get anxious. And I'll live into the world in a different way than if I'm in peace. So our state of being is what created the world. And we just didn't do the homework to get to the best state of being. And it's in every one of us. It doesn't matter what the history is, what the background is, what crazy shit we've done. It doesn't matter what it is, what the story is. I had a war, and I had a divorce, and I had pesticide poisoning, and so we all have our stuff. Doesn't matter any of that stuff, because that wholeness is not affected by any of those things. That's what's so cool about it. That it doesn't, no matter whatever happens, that, sometimes they say it this way, my body could be completely wrecked and on its way out. My thinking completely disorganized. My emotions in turmoil. My social world completely dysfunctional. And my natural world a disaster area. And the unconditional love and the unconditional peace that are the core of my being would not be affected the teensiest little bit. All I need to do is take my focus of awareness from where it is in all the junk and bring it back to the quiet place, and it completely changes everything. The reason I have this background, by the way, is to make that point. Over here is the clutter. Over here, over here is the clutter, and over here is the possibility. So here there's nothing, and everything is possible. Here is all kinds of stuff that, that, and we have both living within us, and they're not mixed up. The clear is always clear, and the cluttered is always cluttered. So the question then becomes, well, if both are in you, where do you want to live? Now, I can tell you this place over here, right? Unbelievably beautiful. My life is so rich, and has nothing to do with money. My life is so rich just by its nature. And that is not different from how your life is and how every one of your listeners and viewers is, and everybody who's not listening and viewing is. That's just the nature. And it's about time that we came home. As a kid, you get to know the world. When you become an adult, you need to come home. And then then you can become an influence for that beauty in your kids. Now, my parents didn't know all that. So I had to figure it out. I got a war that really rubbed my nose into how bad it can get when you don't cultivate that wholeness, when you have the luxury to do it. Because the worst time to cultivate that wholeness is when the bullets are flying. It's really hard to focus on wholeness and sitting still, when you're running from bullets, right?
How do you feel, maybe growing up in that and going through that prepared you? Do you feel that you would have had the same life experience, that you would have, been able to go along this journey had you not gone through that trauma? Like, what role did that initial war trauma?
That's another good way to answer your previous question. Maybe our problem is we haven't had enough hardship, right? So for me, obviously, when I was in the war, it was tough. It was freaky. It was like, but it rubbed my nose very early in what happens when we don't do our homework. And I look back at it now and I say, what a gift. What an incredible gift. How lucky I was. No, not that I wish it on anybody else, but how lucky I was to be alerted to something very important really early on, right? And sometimes you look at when people have it too easy, then they become entitled, and then they want everything to come to them, and they, it's like, well, I have a right to that. Well, no, you actually live by privilege. You live by the grace of solar energy. And when that solar energy decides to check out of your body, then your body's done. And your body is just made out of dust, water, air, and sunlight. And look at everything it can do. It can grow hair, and it can have pink skin, and it can dance and sing and feel good and feel bad, and make things and make other things, and horse around, and lie around and be completely still. I mean, dust, water, air, and light can't do that individually. But when they get mixed up into a human being in a most exquisite way, and just about anything is possible.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Finding gratitude in the suffering, and realizing like we have to go through these hardships. But I think that's what I was trying to articulate at the beginning when I talked about needing both the emptiness, or needing one side of the emotions to truly experience the other. I know for me, a lot of what I've had to go through and endure in my 20s, the bodybuilding, I shared that kind of, the emotional side of the bodybuilding, but starting a business that I scaled to, multiple six figures, and ended up losing all that, was close to six figures in debt, nearing bankruptcy, a lot of hardships, a lot of trials, tribulations, failures in my own life, setbacks, hitting rock bottom with my own personal addictions has gotten me to this point now where I have all of these experiences, and I've gotten on the other side of them to where now I can serve and I can offer my experiences and I don't like to say expertise, but my own journey to the world, and help other men get out of that as well. So I ring so true with what you said there with experiencing those hardships. So is this something if somebody is in their head right now and they've had this, I don't want to say easy life, but you talked about 200,000 years. We've never had a time in life where, or in human evolution or humankind, where we've had things as simple. I talk a lot about,
That's
you're
easy. Yeah.
hungry. It's easy. You're hungry, you hit a button, food shows up at your door. It's hot inside. Most of us, we can bring the AC down. Not everybody has air conditioning, which I found out here talking with you earlier. But it's so easy. So if somebody is, in their head, trying to get in their heart, they're going through this, but they haven't had to go through these hardships. Is there a way that they need to manufacture hardships in their life? Do they need to manufacture tragedy, or what's the outcome for the person that has experienced these major setbacks?
Well, I didn't control the external environment. I also got poisoned by pesticides, and that's how I got into, my biggest disasters have been my biggest breakthroughs, and the best, the most incredible things have come out of it. That's where my oil came from, and that's where the enzymes and probiotics came from. It came out of pesticide poisoning, which came out of a divorce, because I was really upset and I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. And 3 years later, I got poisoned by the pesticides. But actually, the tragedy, I mean, we're thinking of tragedy on the outside, but the tragedy on the inside, everybody's already got it. It's called their heart's aching. That's the tragedy. That is the tragedy of the human race, right? Feel uneasy. We have everything, feel uneasy. What the hell, right? Right? We have everything, and we still don't feel good enough, right? We're surrounded by nature, which is like incredibly beautiful, and we still don't feel okay. We're surrounded by other people and systems to take care of problems, and we still don't feel okay. And we maybe even have our health and our ability to think and all of that, and we still don't feel okay. And it's because of the disconnection from our life. That's the tragedy. But it's a natural tragedy. So it's not like, this is a natural tragedy. And why is that? Why? The pain is always a gift that gets your attention. Something needs to happen here. What you're feeling separate, feeling disconnected, feeling not okay. Something has to happen here. It's not comfortable, and the pain is telling you to pay attention to that. So that's why go into the pain. And that's why go into the war, if that's what it takes. Go into your pesticide poisoning. Whatever happens, that's negative. Go into it. Be with it. Sit with it. But the bigger one, where they all come from, is this tragedy. The tragedy that human beings were made to live in unconditional peace and love and inspiration, and almost none of us do, most of the time.
Yeah, this conversation has been really, really powerful. Just looking at time, I can't believe we've already been at this for 50 minutes. I want to bring it home here. We didn't even get into your oils. We didn't get into flaxseed. We didn't get into Udo's Choice. So here, just maybe 60. I think we'll have you on and maybe explore the oils a little bit deeper. But tell us, just in a couple minutes here, just kind of the story of finding Udo's oils. I know your story is very similar. Do you know Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof? You have a very similar trajectory to that he did. He had some mold poisoning. Mold poisoning set him on this biohacking path, and then he discovered and invented Bulletproof coffee. And now he's helped a million plus pounds lost. I mean, just looking at some of the numbers of what your company has impact. I mean, over 250,000 books sold. You've done, like we were talking about, all these media interviews. You've distributed 25 million bottles of Udo's Choice in 50 plus countries. So what is Udo's Choice, and how does you kind of get to working in this oil space? Because this conversation on being, happiness, wholeness, heart, I wouldn't connect that conversation to a guy that's built an essential oils empire. So let's just kind of connect the two there. How did you discover this?
I actually started doing that before I started making oils. So just that's useful background. But so what happened is I got married and we had 3 kids, and our marriage broke up, and I was really upset. And I took a job as a pesticide sprayer because I used to do gardening jobs, and I got a pesticide sprayer license. And so I wanted to kill something because I was really upset. So I got a job as a pesticide sprayer. I said that before. And then I sprayed them carelessly for 3 years and got poisoned by them. which is a predictable outcome, right? What you do comes back, right? What you put out comes back to you. Went to the doctor, said, what do you have for pesticide poisoning? And she said, nothing. And that day it became so crystal clear to me that my health is my responsibility. My life is my responsibility. Clearer than ever. I wasn't a junk food eater particularly, but it just became so clear. And then I started going into the journals to try and understand how to help myself. Because if you're sick, and the one thing you got to know is that 98% of the atoms in your body are removed and replaced every year. So next year, if I see you this time next year, you will be almost a completely different guy. 98% different. And here's the thing, that if you're sick, then what you do is you raise the standard. Food, water, air, and light. You raise the standard. And in 1 year, you will have rebuilt 98% of your body to this higher standard that you set. That's why healing is possible. Because when we're sick, we change the standard, and when we change the standard, we automatically head in the direction of improvement, provided the standard is higher, right? If we set a lower standard, then we're automatically going to end up in poorer health. So I knew that. And so I was looking at health and nutrition and disease and nutrition because I was thinking about the body being made out of food, and got stuck on fats because it was the most complicated area. And it turns out that the fats, the essential fatty acids, the parts from fats that your body can't make but has to have, omega-3 and omega-6, they are the most sensitive of our nutrients. They're damaged by light, by oxygen, by heat. They are required by every cell in the body. They're damaged by processing because they're sensitive, and they're damaged by food preparation, by frying. And more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition. And the light went on and said, oh my God, I can't get healthy on oils like that. We should make them with health in mind. And I grew up on a farm, so I knew how to tinker with stuff. We're pretty comfortable. And so I developed a method for making oils with health in mind. And then got the most sensitive oils are omega-3 oils. Because omega-3 is super, super, super sensitive, a nightmare to work with. Every cell needs them. And we then decided to make this the most sensitive oil with health in mind by protecting the oil from the time it's in the seed through the pressing and the filtering and the settling and the filling till it's in a brown glass bottle in a box with nitrogen flush, right? And you have to make a really, really tight system because light and oxygen go, are very small and go very easily anywhere. So that's what we did. We said, if we can make omega-3s with health in mind, because they're the most sensitive, then anything else we'd ever want to do would be a piece of cake. So we started with flaxseed oil because it has the most omega-3. It turned out to be unbalanced. So I became omega-6 deficient on it because you need both omega-3 and omega-6 in the right ratio. And then I made a blend that's called Udo's oil. And that's got everything good you need from fats and nothing bad that you should avoid. And you take about a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day, mixed in food, intake spread out over the course of the day. And you take as much as it takes to make your skin really nice. That's the thing people most rant about. Oh my God, my skin became so nice, because they form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. Then you don't need gunk on the outside. Then you're oiling your skin from within, right? But also with athletes, 40 to 60% increase in stamina in 30 days when they do their sport to exhaustion. We worked with athletes. They said their injuries healed in a third to a half the time. They didn't have the joint problems, either the pain or dysfunction, and their joints were more flexible, more limber, less joint pain.
So we have so I was sharing with you, we have a large fitness based audience. So real quick here. So 30 days of a serving size of Udo's oil, your athletes saw 40 to 60%
not
increase.
serving size. it's a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day.
Tablespoon per 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Tablespoon
So that'll
per...
be usually for most people 2 to 4 tablespoons, but the really big guys might go up to 6. And that's your food oil foundation. And you don't fry it. You can put it in hot soup. You can put it in steamed vegetables, but you put it in the food after it comes off the heat. This is not a frying oil because you wreck it when you fry it. And this is the alternative, the healthy alternative to doing that. Yeah. And within 30 days, 40 to 60, we did strength and endurance sports. The big guys, like the world strongmen, we worked with some of them. They said if they took a glug, I always say mix it in food, but they would take a glug, right? And they say they would notice the increase in their energy within about 45 minutes. And then they do their workouts. They could do more reps before they get tired. It increases oxygen metabolism, and it increases lactic acid build down because that's oxygen requiring processes. And the oils become rancid very quickly, which is a reaction with oxygen when they're not treated with care. But they also enhance the oxygen reaction in the body and in the mitochondria. And they're also really good for weight loss because they increase metabolic rate and give you stable energy. Better than carbs for energy production, especially in endurance sports. That becomes obvious.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to have you back on for kind of a masterclass on oils if you'd be open for that. I'll get with your team in coordinating that. Maybe in a couple of months we can make that happen. But I did speak with the team, and they gave us a free, I think it's one of your books that you wrote, Your Body Needs an Oil Change. So is this the best resource for people to kind of learn more about what you're doing over there at Udo's Oil and kind of get a base level education on these things? Is that a good resource for beginners?
Yeah, and that's what we'll be talking about if I come on your show next time.
Yeah, no, amazing. So yeah, guys, we'll get that link down there below. Obviously, I wanted to get more into this, but we want to be respectful for Udo's time. We want to be respectful for all of you guys listening out there. But this has been a fascinating conversation. We have one question here that we end every single guest with, and I really think what we did here for 50 minutes is we gave a long form answer to this question, because as we were talking, I'm like, God, what's he got left for this last question? But I ask it at the end of every single show. Obviously, the title of the podcast is The Superhuman Life. And, we talked a little bit about it here before. We talked about it, kind of the course of this show. I got to this point back in July of 2019. We're actually coming up on the 1 year anniversary. This will drop the week of our 1 year or 2 year anniversary. I'm sorry. But the podcast has been a result of, like I was telling you, kind of my own, spiritual transformation, spiritual journey, and just really kind of getting clear on my own life's purpose. But it's my belief. And when I talk about living a Superman life, I come at it from a beliefs perspective. So this is not an actual way of living. It's more of how I kind of view the world. A Superman life to me is understanding that we were placed on this earth for a purpose. We were created with a purpose in mind. And then it's our job, our responsibility, because you said we were given this one body. We were given it. It's not ours. We were granted it for this human experience. So when you take understanding that you were put on this earth for a purpose, and then it's your job, your responsibility to fully harness and fully develop this physique or this one body, on the other side of that is where you get to live that superhuman life. So that's what I talk about when I describe living a superhuman life. But I like to get the guest take here, Udo. So as we bring it home here, Udo, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Superhuman life is to be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings and not lost in thoughts in your head. And part of what being present in all of your being includes is that you're present to life, which is your master, which is your God, which is your energy, which is your power, which is your unconditional love. And when you're living in that place, you absolutely have a superhuman life.
Amen. Thank you. Where can people find you and connect with you online?
2 places, Udo's Choice, udoschoice.com. And that's where the products are. And we talk about how we made them and why we made them and some of the stuff. And then the other one is called udoerasmus.com or the Udo, THEUDO.com. And on that, we got educational material and some courses and things like
and you hanging out socially
and
online,
also,
any of the social platforms?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I'm not hard to find.
Amazing. Guys, we'll get all that. We'll get all that link down there below. We'll also have the link for the Your Body Needs an Oil Change free book. So make sure to pick that up. But Udo, brother, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, your life's journey, and touching on some of the oil stuff. I'm excited to have you back on and maybe explore some real, like a real masterclass on the oil stuff. So for you guys listening out there, hopefully that you found value in today's conversation.
And thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I'd be talking to myself in the bathroom mirror. If you're an amplifier, you're an amplifier. If the message is good, the amplifier is really important. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and this has been a blast. It challenged me in a couple different areas, and I definitely have a lot to take away and spend some time in my own thoughts here, digesting some of what we talked about. So I appreciate you, Udo. For you guys out there, we appreciate you for tuning in. Obviously, continue to support us. You can do that in two different ways. If you're watching there on YouTube and you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're notified every Monday when our new episodes are released. But you guys on the audio side, if you want to help us get this podcast out in front of more people, you can help us in supporting in these two different ways. First off, if you haven't done so yet and you're getting value out of these conversations, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or written review. But more importantly, guys, if there's somebody in your life that is going through something, maybe they're dealing with this mental mess that we all talk about, and they need to learn to live through their heart, do us this favor by sharing today's conversation with them. So for Frank Rich, Udo Erasmus, we love you guys. We'll see you next week. God bless and take care.